Hello, 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 hello. All right. So, today I'm going to be working on the imposter doll face-up, which I've spent the last couple days getting a solid body color down using pastels so that it doesn't scrape off around the joints or anything. Because you don't want to put paint around joints or on the vinyl head, because that'll crack or scrape off really easily. So, wearing gloves, because I might take them off later because it makes things difficult, but I don't want to get the oils from my hands onto the surface of the doll, because if that gets sealed in under the sealant, it'll make the paint job not hold up as well over time. So, I'm just getting started on the face with watercolor pencil. Just lining the eyes right now. So I'm giving indication of where everything's going to go. A nice thing about working on a doll that has the pastels on the face is that plus all of the layers of sealant that you need to get the pastels to be that opaque gives you a really good textured surface for drawing on. Because you can't just draw watercolor pencil on vinyl because it'll come off. So you need to have that tooth to the surface. Alright. It's okay if this layer is a little bit rough because it can get covered up or, worked around later. I'm just trying to get it sort of all base sketch outline in. Focus. You can do it, Mr. Camera. There we go. And I'm really happy with how the sculpting job I did on the face turned out, because it's very messy. Because I ended up putting sort of layers of glue to stop it from cracking off, because I used clay on vinyl, which is not usually a good mix, but if you use a good glue with it, but that also gives a texture, which in this case, since I'm going for creepy, is a good thing. I wouldn't want that on just doing regular modifications for a not horror project, but for this one it works out. Sort of the shape of the pupils in. It's interesting because it's going to end up being an asymmetric face. Because first of all, I have all the sculpting on one side, but I also want one side to look more human and the other side to have more sort of creepy look to it, which is why I put all the sculpting on the one side. Sort of improvising here. I didn't really draw up a plan for what this face is going to look like. But hopefully it works out. So I can also use pastels on the face if I want to for more blushing and general color blocking, but the pencils are good because they're more precise. And you can't use regular pencils or regular colored pencils on these because the oils don't get along with the materials I'm using. So I just have a big box of pencils. None of the materials I'm using here are particularly fancy. Yeah, it's mostly just sort of stuff I picked up at craft stores. That works out okay. I do have some nice pastels, but unfortunately, I do not have the colors that I need for this doll in pan pastels, so instead I'm working with sort of, I guess, cheaper and maybe a little bit less pigmented colors, which works well if you're having sort of a more heavy hand with putting it all down, but it can complicate things in terms of, you know, trying to get good layering. It's doable, but it's a little bit trickier if you don't have the really expensive materials. Let's see. Trying to find a color that matches what I put on for the... I did put a little bit of paint on the clay parts because it's not likely to crack off there. Well, the clay might, but the paint won't crack off the clay because both of them are rigid. I am liking the look of bleeding in purple into the red, because it really gives it sort of an extra edge. I can use the purple to give it sort of texture, and instead of shading black on red, it really helps sort of provide more dimension using a different but adjacent color on the color wheel to do all this. Also, the purple stands out really well against the green, because the outfit has green and there's some green on the body, and the purple really makes that pop. Also, sort of from a more like, I guess, symbolism standpoint, purple is often used to show that something's unnatural because it doesn't show up much in nature. So it's often used as the color of magic or used as creepy, hence the purple tentacles trope, which I guess I am kind of playing into here. Just adding some white highlights to the teeth on the side. Probably gonna take a couple layers to get good opacity with this. And I might mix some water in with the pencil to give it a little bit more pop. Because fun thing about watercolor pencils is that they show up really well on, like, well, of course mixed with water because they're watercolor. So if I mix water into these, I can really make it stand out. I'm almost tempted to line the eye over here with some red. I don't know, I might go back on that, but I think it adds a little bit more than just using straight black. Kind of similar to using colored line art if you're drawing like a digital art painting. going in kind of lightly over the eyebrows because I don't know what color hair I'm going to do yet. Whoops, sorry, I moved out of frame there. Didn't even notice. There we go. That's looking pretty good. I'm not sure what color I should make the other eye. Because I could go with red for both of them, but I don't want that to take away from the sort of split look that I'm going for on the face. Or the one side is more creepy and the other side's more, I guess, human looking. Try something here. It might not work out. I'm going to try drawing some purple away. Like that. I think that's going to look nice and creepy, but it has to be going this way. Sort of match the flow of everything. That's looking real scary. Just taking a minute here to look at it on the camera, and wow, yeah, that really pops. Nice. Yeah. This has been a pretty fun project. I know it's not nearly done, because even once I get the face and all of that done, I'm still gonna have quite a bit to work on with getting the rest of the outfit rather, put together and all of that. This project has been fun though, because I have all of this body modification that I put on, which I sort of cut the doll up into pieces and then re-sculpted on with clay, which is probably, no, definitely the biggest successful body mod I've done. With runner-up being this one, which I don't think I've shown off before, because the body was a failed body mod, and I have to get better materials if I'm going to make through with my plan on this one. But those antlers are entirely clay on wire. And carved and painted. And that took a while. So it's also one of the, I guess, more sort of sculpture-heavy ones that I've done. I need to get more practice remaking joints, though, because I've only done that on one doll. Pull out a little bit red, too. Not as much as I'm pulling out the purple, because I'm putting the purple more towards the outside, and then so it fades from the red into the purple. But I still want it to be there. So the look I'm kind of going for here is alien shapeshifted into human poorly. And then, hopefully, on the finished one, this is more part of the outfit, but I'm going to have a bunch of painted fabric tentacles sort of curling up from the back. And I've made the tentacles, but I need them to be rooted into something. Birds have decided to make a guest appearance today. Don't mind them. They're very sweet, but only to me. They hate everyone else. Good birds. Yep, so I'm just going to brighten this up a little bit. I did do a base with paint, but you can get good color with paint and good pigmentation, but you don't get as good sort of blending, I guess. It's a lot harder to get the really saturated textures when you're just working with paint only. So that's why I go back over it with pencils. But the paint does speed things along, because I didn't have to do all of this in pencil and then go over it with more pencil and do all that, which is nice. I'm gonna put some black into the crevices here, sort of like I did on this side, because then you can put the white over top. And it just sinks in, because then the black is in the depths of it, and then you have the white highlight, and it really gives it a creepy, toothy look. There. That's a little better. Ooh. And by a little better, I mean absolutely horrifying, but that's great. I guess based on the, given that this is sort of the first doll custom that I've really done, mostly on stream, you'd get more of an impression that I'm into horror, and I'm really not. I like the character designs in horror, and I like all that, but I'm not a fan of being afraid. It's not good. I never want to watch horror movies. But I do like the characters, though, because they're interesting. So I guess I like horror concepts applied in a non-horror way. Which sounds weird, but, you know. There we go. As I'm doing this, I'm sort of spilling the purple out into the green that I have by its edges. Kind of blending those two together. Which, speaking of which, I should get a green pencil and go over those to make them pop a little bit more. Because they did get kind of washed out by when I was putting the skin tone on. Retrieving pencils. Don't know what color will match, so I'm just retrieving a lot of them. Yeah, that looks good. Let me grab a lighter highlight. There we go. Woo. There we go. I can start kind of going over the spots I'm already done and maybe fizzing it out a little bit more. Yeah, that's looking good. I guess if we're getting a little bit more like philosophical about it, it's very easy to think your art is not good when you're working on it. And I found, weirdly enough, look at it on a camera, because then it will give you sort of a different look at it. So, like, take a picture of it and look at it. And that gets you sort of the way everybody else is looking at it, where it's not the thing you just spent hours making and it's just an art piece. It's so easy to spend hours on something and then be so disappointed in the result. So you kind of have to take the time to look at it a little bit more objectively and sort of sit with it for a while, you know? I guess see it for what it is instead of what you think it might have been. Because ultimately what it is I guess what it is. And you can learn from any mistakes you might have made, but there comes a point where you have to kind of let a project be. Sort of stop working on it. Because I don't think anything's ever going to be my best work, because this is currently my best work. And I think my best work is always going to be the next one. Because I'm learning from all of these projects, so I'm just going to keep improving on it. There we go. Going in with the pastels and pencils really brightens it up, sort of. I'm also going to add a couple more spots kind of down the arm because I want to keep the continuity. It'd be weird if they were just on the torso and by the shoulder but not actually going down. There we go. Yeah. Haven't really been online in a while because I've been doing a bunch of college stuff. It's finals. I finally got a break, so I'm streaming today, but it's finals. I had a bunch to do. I do really enjoy streaming, but it always comes, like, second to my school stuff, because that just needs to get done. I'm not entirely sure what I was intending for these to be, beyond sort of adding to the creepy. Because it looks almost like scales a little bit. But I guess it doesn't have to really be anything because it's an alien. Maybe I'll figure out how to put a poll out on my Twitter and ask you guys about the hair color. I'm still very bad at social media. I'm working on it. Stretch break, because otherwise my hands are gonna cramp up. The glue thing I did here was interesting and kind of based on something I did before with, let's see, I have the doll here. This doll, where the entirety of that scar is layers upon layers of just glue. And it makes it three-dimensional and textured because I was able to, while the glue was drying, swirl it around and give it that texture to it. So I kind of used that as a basis because I knew I wanted a little bit more of a textured skin on that side. A little bit less, I guess, normal looking. And a little bit different than the rest of the skin everywhere else on the doll, because that's where the more alien features are. Yeah, I'm putting quite a bit of effort into this one. Also, I should color the claws, but I don't know what color. That's part of why I chose this doll base, is because of those. First of all, the face shape matches, and then this one has molded on claws. Which I guess I could have swapped out because these are Monster High dolls, and they just kind of pop off. But it worked out because the face shape was right too. Technically, if you're already modifying them, you can swap the heads as well, because you can pull them off, but you don't want to do that after you've already done too much, I guess, work on the head. And also, if you're not careful about it, you can kind of see here those white pieces on the neck peg. That's where the neck peg got sort of strained by me pulling the head off. Even though I dumped the head in boiling water to make it squishy enough to pull off easily. So the head probably isn't going to go back on until everything else is pretty much done. Because I don't want to have to take it off again. And I also don't know how all of this is going to stand up to boiling water. I mean, I guess it's better if I'm going to do the hair, but not sure what color hair I'm going to do. Is part of me is thinking yarn hair would probably fit this sort of character that I'm building. With everything. But I don't know. I do have some good doll hair, but that has less color options. Especially because I do not own many pieces of doll hair. So I'm kind of limited by my own collection. Should start... I keep saying this, but I should start using my Instagram more. Maybe I'll put up some pictures of some of the older work. It's weird to say older work because I've only been like actually customizing dolls for like a year and a half at this point, I think. But I guess that would be the term. I've done like, what? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I've done like 4 dolls so far. No, 5. Except it just occurs to me that I don't know where one of them is. And I'm working on another 2 now because I have this one and then I have the mermaid. Who I need to go through and do the same thing I did here. The good news is with that one, I already basically have the base skin color I want. I just need to do, like, body blushing to give it a little bit more of a realistic look and some tone variation and all that. Thinking about what colors would go well with the color palette I have right now, because I don't want to mess that up with whatever I'm going to do for the hair and eye color. I'm also constrained by what colors of pencils I have. Because it occurs to me that I could probably go buy more, but I don't have money, and I don't want to have to go to the store. So I also don't have a driver's license, so going to the store is an ordeal. Grab sort of a brown color for the eyes, and I think that's going to work fine. Eye, rather, because the other one's red. I gotta say, neighbors must love me. And like going out in the driveway to spray doll bodies with sealant. Because I really wish that sealant would work in the spray booth so I didn't have to go outside to do that, but unfortunately it's toxic, so I can't. I cannot use the airbrush booth to spray these. Not that you can use the airbrush to get color on so the plastic and vinyl stuff, but I don't know if I trust it. Or at least trust it enough to do all that, because the thing is, it's not like I'm gonna ruin the doll, but if I put a bunch of work into the detailing that goes over that paint job, I'm just kind of filling in some points that got missed with the paint here, but if I put a bunch of work into putting a bunch of detail over top and all of that, and then that airbrush stuff decides to peel, I'm going to have wasted a bunch of work. So there's probably some tests I could run to see if that's going to happen, but I don't want that to happen. That would suck. Start adding, I guess, a little bit more pigment to the purple. And as I said, filling in some gaps. Pencil is the easiest way to fill in the gaps, but it's also tough because it has such small gaps, and I need to fit a pencil into them. Should grab this green for this one because it's... There we go. That's a little better. A little better, just a bit. There we go. It's looking good. Yeah, I've been really busy lately. It's almost garden season, which I'm really excited for. I'm getting everything laid out at the gardens. Because I grew 50 radishes last year and I need to be at my high score. I don't know why radishes became the thing that I grow, but it is. I know how to make really good pickled radishes, so it's not like they go to waste. Yeah, how I get 50% of my exercise during the summer. Just walking out to the garden to take care of it. It's not that far away, but it is far enough away for that to be a walk. Pretty sure my sister got done making the gate today, which is nice. Perks of being related to a bunch of really creative people. In addition to the beautifully nerdy crafts. I think that's looking pretty good. In terms of horrifyingly creepy tentacles. Except I want to highlight the red on top of these. It's sort of a push and pull. Put in the brighter red on top because I want it to stand out. And then the purple is a little bit darker. So that's going sort of around the sides. I think the bright colors also add something to sort of the horror elements because it's, I guess, unexpected. I'm gonna need to figure out how I'm gonna make like the helmet and stuff because that ideally will be made out of foam, but it also needs to be a sphere, and I do not know how to make a sphere out of a foam sheet. That sounds like difficult. So I wonder if there's a pattern for that I can scale down or something. That's looking pretty good. Nice and scary. Speaking of which, I'm pretty sure there are still some white patches around the edges of this that I should fill in. Yep, there we go, that's better. Not sure how long this stream's gonna be. The good news is it's spring, so I have natural lighting now. In addition to the camera has a little halo light, which is very nice. But the sunlight is good. Not that there's much sunlight today, it's very cloudy. But still, it adds sort of a natural lighting. Just kind of layering it. I know that there's gonna come a point where I've built up all the opacity I can on this layer, and then I'm gonna have to hit it with spray and go back over it once that's dried. There we go. The white does not build that well. That's probably one that I should dip in water if I want to build good opacity. Which is unfortunate because I do not currently have a container of water near me. You can probably go get one though. Alright. I'm gonna put it on break while I go do that. Boop. Boop. Alright, I'm back. And I have a container of water, so I can hopefully build a little bit more opacity, especially with the white and all that. Black shows up really well, which I guess makes sense. Yeah, the water turns it a little bit more into a cream, so a little bit closer to a paint rather than a pencil. Which I guess makes sense because it's watercolor. This is just pigment in a stick. Which I guess is a good description of most pencils, but these ones don't have oil. There we go. Yeah. Don't have quite as many viewers as I usually do, but that's okay. Haven't been on in a while, so kind of expected, I guess. We're good. Need to get up to date on uploading these recordings to YouTube, but unfortunately, it takes like 2 hours to upload each of these to YouTube, and it's the reason why I don't edit these, because they're like really long, and I don't have good editing software. that's looking pretty good. Yeah. I'm kind of working with my old, I guess, formula almost of trying to improve one thing each stream. There we go. Putting black there so that I'm using water to dilute it so that it slides further into the cracks. But that way I can go over it with white and it'll make that pop. Give it sort of a tooth effect, which is fitting because they're teeth. Yeah. The teeth were fun to sculpt. I used the same technique that I've done to make sort of geode patterns in the past, because I want these teeth, I guess, to be more jagged and less clean. A little bit more monstrous looking. Should probably give this doll a name at some point. A lot of my finished projects do have them. Just because it feels like the right thing to do. Sure. Putting in all the effort to fix them up. Alright. Stretch break as I wait for that to dry so I can put the white over top. Yay. Alright. And take a drink of water that is not paint water. Don't drink your paint water. I've done that before. It's not good. Not fun. Does not taste good, is not good for your insides. Do not recommend. Yeah. Definitely gonna put a few more layers on top of this. This is just kind of getting the base colors in. Not quite the full sort of finished paint job. Still not great at face-ups. There we go. That looks good. It's looking more dry, so I can... There. Great. I'm gonna mute for a second here. It seems like things are happening, and that means dogs are probably gonna start barking. I will remember to unmute this time. I will not make the same mistake twice. Gloves are all covered in paint. I cannot do one of these without getting somewhat all covered in paint. Second bonus of wearing gloves. Third bonus of wearing gloves is that I cut my hand and you can't see it. Doing a bunch of yard work. I took out a bush. Bush is gone. My arms are significantly more scratched. Alright. Good news is, this is water-soluble paint, and these gloves are crinkly and the paint is less so, so it mostly just rubs off. Hello, birdies. I got some interesting new fabrics. As I said, most of my family does hobby stuff, so I get a lot of the cutaways and sometimes just interesting stuff that people find that might be good for doll stuff. So I got this really pretty copper, like, satin, which is a little bit more red in real life than it shows up on camera. I still need to figure out my color balancing. But that's really pretty. So, it's a very slippery fabric, so I'm gonna need to figure out what stitch to use on that, especially on a small scale so it doesn't fray. And then I got this, which is a very stretchy fabric that is iridescent purple and gold. Which is the prettiest thing, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. And I have a decent chunk. Like, this is all folded up, but there's a lot of it. I think I might use that copper satin in conjunction with the leftover, like, green satin that I was using on this project, which is a lot more neon, but I think should fit well, because they're both the same kind of fabric. So, I don't know, maybe if I get some more scraps of different colors, I can put something together with that. I need to practice some patterning some of my doll clothes as well, because I am not very good at patterning, and most of my patterning experience is on clothes that are me-sized and not not doll-sized. And when you're doing human-sized clothes, it's a little bit less, I guess, precise, because you still want to be precise about it, but it doesn't have to be quite as, like, what am I saying? Doll-sized clothes fray, first of all, a lot faster. So that's difficult to work around. And also there's a lot smaller margin of error with the way it's fitted. So you have to be really careful with that, not to make a mess of it. That's looking pretty good. There we go. All right. Yep. So then probably all of these pieces are gonna get all of the sort of tentacle and mouth pieces are gonna get a layer of like gloss on them in the finished piece, which will fit with. Hang on a minute, let me grab something. The outfit piece, because you can kind of tell, but to stop it from fraying, I had to put some glue around the edges of that big rip, which shows through to the all of those mods. But it has sort of a slick look to it, which I probably wouldn't want for any other project. Also, you can see this is not the best quality garment. It's a little bit messy because that's a difficult fabric to work with, and doll garments are hard. Pretty sure every other thing that's doll stuff that I've actually sewn before has all been done completely by hand, and that was my first one that I tried on the sewing machine. Which is pretty good. Put my hand sewing skills to work. Alright. I think I've mostly done what I can do on this layer, and I'm not quite at... Usually I stream for like either 1 hour or 2 hours, or like whenever I run out of things to do. So alright, let's see if I can get through the outro in one take. Usually doesn't, but thank you to everybody who stopped by to watch and to everybody who's watching the recording. I will see you guys later, probably later this week, hopefully, depending on how my schedule goes.